Think I'm lying? Believe I'm disloyal? Kirk was quiet for a significant length of time. His countenance was inscrutable as he sat there, looked at her. Rasheeda was ready to soften when he hit her with the most terrible words she had ever heard. "I've never asked you questions about your children before," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. But this before she could stop herself, Rasheeda grabbed the one she didn't possess. She grabbed the nearest throw pillow and tossed it at him with all her power after feeling something within her fracture. Jerk, she let out a scream. "You're not worthy of me. You're not worthy of this family." Kirk effortlessly dodged the cushion, his face unmodified. "Maybe I don't," he reasoned to himself. "Perhaps I never did." There was a tight stillness filled the room as they stood on the verge of something they couldn't figure out how to end, both of them. Breathing hard, their prior love seemed far away, as if it had occurred in another period. Kirk then dropped another surprise. As Rasheeda was about to leave the room, his voice was powerful and forceful as he exclaimed, "I want paternity." Ada's breathing grew heavy, "and I'm not making any claims until I have the findings." A paternity test was performed. Was he speaking the truth? Did he honestly feel she had cheated on him? Is this where they ended up after all these years of devotion? After all the time she had forgiven him for his crimes, she remarked in a barely discernible whisper, "You can't be serious." The earth appeared to be dragged out from under her, but she never truly believed it. She had always feared that Kirk's doubts and anxieties would ultimately lead them to this moment, and here they were now. Yet she could tell all she needed to know by the look in his eyes. Rasheeda's body trembled as she realized that their marriage will never be the same again. As she turned away from him, she couldn't look at him any longer, even though she could feel his gaze scorching. There was nothing she could do to prevent the collapse of what they had made Rashi. Her heart raced between her ribs as she remained immobile, stunned by what she had just heard a test for. Paternity. Kirk was really wondering the validity of her kid. After all these years and everything they had through together, breathing became practically difficult as the weight of his words dropped like a stone deep in her chest. Came back to him slowly, her expression a combination of rage and despair. "Kirk, are you really sure you want to go there? Kirk has the guts to question me after all the filth you've produced and the times you've walked out on me." He exhaled quickly and wiped his face in frustration. "Rasheeda, stop playing games on me. This is about the present, not the past, and I have my reservations about the present." She curled her hands into fists at her sides, stating, "I became genuine. Significant doubts if you're uncertain. Guess what? When you had a full freaking baby behind my back, my worry turned to, did I quit or blame anyone?" "No," Kirk moaned and shook his head. "I remained and worked through it because I believe in us, because I trusted in you, and this is what I get in return. Do not pretend that I didn't pay for my faults, Rasheeda." Rasheeda's eyes welled up with tears, yet she kept reminding me of it every day. "We'll not let them go now that the shoe is on the other foot and he can't take it. This has nothing to do with my incompetence. To handle it, Kirk, you still view me as the same girl from back in the day. But I've grown up and I've changed. This is about your lack of faith in me, and I guess my greatest mistake was expecting you did as well." Kirk snarled, stroking his beard. "Well, maybe my greatest mistake was believing you would always be honest with me." Rasheeda chuckled resentfully. "You want real, all right. Let's be honest. This infant isn't the major problem here. Rather, you've been seeking for a cause. To separate yourself from me and have been waiting for anything like this to terminate the marriage without coming across." Kirk's jaw stiffened, and he kept quiet for a moment. Maybe in her heart she was accurate. Maybe their marriage had been strained for a while, and this condition just made things worse. More complex, but now that his instinct was telling him something wasn't right, he couldn't quit up. Rasheeda eventually remarked in a quieter tone, with her eyes blazing with passion, "I'm not trying to drive you away." She stepped near and said, "But I'm not going to be played either, so that's what you think, I'm playing you, that I'm simply out." Kirk glanced at her and said, "I think I need answers, and I can't be here until I get them." 100 with you no longer. Rasheeda's whole body tightened. Kirk might be obstinate. She knew this was chilling like never before, and it was more terrible than she cared to admit. Her voice was hardly audible. Above a whisper, she asked, "So, Kirk, do you want to leave? Do you want to pack?" The level of enmity between Kirk Frost and Rasheeda has just grown, and supporters are going out of control. The unexpected statement that he is bluntly refusing to receive Rasheeda's kid has everyone talking exactly as we predicted. Things couldn't get much weirder. Yes, the drama is growing in the most surprising manner possible. Kirk maintains his stance and argues that the kid is not his. Suspicion began with the appearance of stories regarding Rasheeda's alleged affair with another man, but not expected Kirk to take things this far, in addition to privately doubting things. He is also making brazen assertions separating from Rasheeda, making it quite clear that the kid is not his. And trust me when I tell that his answer is causing a major fuss and dividing their fan base and family more than ever. But what exactly caused this moment? Has Rasheeda made any confessions, or is Kirk only southeast a method of terminating this relationship? This situation is swiftly becoming out of hand as charges are as violent discussions break out and unexpected revelations emerge. You will be astonished by the we are about to expose information, so stay tuned. After weeks of increasing stress, the Frost family eventually burst into a full-fledged quarrel tonight, his arms crossed hard over his chest and his teeth clenched. Kirk Frost peered on the side of the sofa and stared at Rasheeda in full disbelief. Unspoken accusations permeated. Kirk refused to be plated, no matter how many times Rasheeda attempted to comfort him. Rasheeda, her voice quivering with fury, exclaimed to Kirk, "I don't know why you keep looking at me like that." Making an attempt to stay cool, the tension was getting to her. "You're acting as if I'd done something wrong, but all I've done is try to keep this family together." Rasheeda felt ill to her stomach as Kirk laughed dryly. Without humor, she never fell in love with this guy. Instead, he was rougher, colder, and more distant than before. "Relations you want to talk family now, are you serious?" Rasheeda's wrath has been simmering just below the fear filled his eyes. "You've been keeping something from me, and now you want me to pretend nothing is wrong." Rasheeda felt her pulse rush as she realized what Kirk was saying. She couldn't do it right now. She had been trying damage management ever since the reports about her possible interaction with another guy started to circulate, but the whispers continued to become louder. Kirk seemed more distant the more she sought to reassure. Kirk had already determined that nothing she said appeared to restore his damaged faith in her. "Anything you want to say," he murmured in a loud, low voice, his eyes never leaving hers. "But that infant, I don't." Rasheeda felt as if she had been smacked across the face by those statements, and for a moment she was unable to possibly think of a way to respond since her breath was locked in her throat. She was unable to breathe owing to the strain of his accusation on her chest. Was that, after all they had experienced, he was now turned on her after years of rebuilding their marriage, the UPS downs, and the infidelity accusations that Kirk had? "You have no right to suggest that." She ultimately coughed out her words, shaking with astonishment and wrath. Kirk was not going back down. "Yeah, I dare. I'm sick of being the fool, Rasheeda. So I dare. I'm aware of what has happened. I've observed how you've been slinking away and taking calls when you assume I'm not listening as you anticipate. Me to believe that's my kid, but I know deep inside that something isn't right," he murmured, his eyes narrowing. Rasheeda's anger made her entire body quake. This was her husband, the guy who had constantly deceived her, the man she had backed when the world turned against him, and the man she had forgiven for his infidelity accused her of infidelity. Now she felt nauseated by the irony of it all. "You think you know." With each syllable her voice rose as she Kirk, "What on earth do you know? And what evidence do you have? You merely make assumptions based on other people's vocal exchanges." She fought not to weep in front of him, and her chest heaved with every breath while keeping calm. With a quick breath, Kirk brushed his palm over his face as if he was attempting to keep himself from going totally insane. The endless fights, sleepless nights, and uncertainties that tore every time he looked at Rasheeda. He was fatigued. "Hasida, do you really think I don't feel it? Things don't add up, as a guy can see." Rasheeda's eyes were burning with tears, but she would not let them go. She had no intention of breaking in front of him or anybody else, even if it felt like her. The world was falling, and she had always had the strength to hold things together. She shook her head. I can't believe you treat me like way after all we've gone through, and all the times I made a mistake, and I still backed you. You just got rid of me like trash. Do you? Temple and whimpered like a dagger to the breast. Rasheeda fiercely looked at him and said, "You created us since you took the choice to distrust me. You had best hope that you were incorrect." She laughed bitterly and Kirk winced, feeling the power of her words. She sneered and flung open the vehicle. Door shouting, "Rasheeda, don't do that." She slammed the door behind her and raced inside saying, "I'm not doing anything." "Kirk, you did this," and things only became worse over the next several days. The home tension was intolerable. Rasheeda only engaged with Kirk when absolutely required. When she wasn't in their bedroom, she was rocking the infant to sleep in his room while quietly promising him that everything will be okay. In contrast, Kirk felt imprisoned in his own home, while uncertainty continued to nibble at the back of his mind. The guilt was devouring him alive. He went to the studio to distract his attention, but he was unable to escape even there. The word had gotten out. "What on earth are you doing, dude?" leaning on the mixing board. Stevie Key shook his head. Kirk massaged his face and took a long breath. "Dude, you don't understand." "Yeah, I get," Stevie retorted. "Raza isn't a groupie guy. You're behaving as if you don't know the lady. Married, you're treating her like a random street girl. When she held you down," Kirk clenched his teeth. "I just had." Stevie arched an eyebrow and replied, "Yes. And what happens when those findings come back and prove you wrong? Are you prepared to manage the fallout?" Kirk stayed mute because he secretly doubted that he was Rasheeda. While navigating her own storm in an effort to cope with the situation in solitude, she had remained quiet about it. Kylie, on the other hand, had a big mouth, and her social media was ablaze in a couple of days after Kirk done everything. Questioning Rashid's kid is absurd. Kirk Frost is popular, and Rashid even has to give up his ass, and not in a favorable sense. The response was severe and swift. The supporters were angry. Those who had previously standing up for Kirk were now mercilessly tugging him. Rasheeda's stomach twisted as she witnessed the mayhem unfold on her. Phone was something she despised. She despised the thought that the world would evaluate their company. But above everything, she despised the fact that Kirk had originally put them in this situation. Things had boiled over by the time Rasheeda eventually cracked the night before they were supposed to get the call, murmuring, "You," as Kirk perched on the edge of the bed, and she stood at their bedroom doorway. His look was impenetrable. As he looked up at her, "You wrecked us," she sobbed again, her voice shaking. Rasheeda Kerr swallowed hard and replied, I'm not sure if I'll ever look at you the same way again, baby." She brushed away a tear and laughed harshly. Kirk sprang up and walked toward her, but she fled. The phone rang the next morning. "Don't you dare pretend like you care now that you've made your decision. Kirk, you've got to live with it now." The phone was positioned between Kirk and Rasheeda like a ticking time bomb. Sat across from one another at the kitchen table after hesitating, Kirk said in the professional calm on the other end, the room looked to constrict as they said, "We have your findings," with a dry voice. Kirk inquired. "And there was a break after that. The test indicates that you are definitely the biological father." Stillness, the air in the Kirk believed. Rasheeda merely glanced at him, her face expressionless. The connection had been terminated. "Your things, because what are we doing here if you honestly believe this baby isn't yours?" Kirk groaned and averted his sight for a second before re-engaging with her strongly. "I'm staying," he said. "But until I'm certain I'm not playing daddy." Rasheeda felt a flash of rage come over her. "You're staying, Kirk. This is our home, not some motel where may come and go as you want." "Then prove it," Kirk responded. "And that baby isn't simply some question mark you get to ignore anything till it suits your stupid story. Take the damn test if you're so confident." Rasheeda stared at him amazement as her lips parted in a rapid gasp as escaped. "What do you know? It's all right, Kirk. Don't flinch. You want test, you got it. But when the results prove you're incorrect, I vow to God, Kirk, you'll repent ever questioning me. We'll see." That the home was a battleground for the following 3 days. They seldom exchanged words or even looked at one another. Even their acquaintances could sense something was wrong because of how thick the tension was. Rasheeda was initially phoned by Carly Red. "Tell me it's not true, lady. I heard Kirk comment carelessly in the studio that he doesn't." Rasheeda let out a hard sigh while gripping the phone firmly, thinking the baby was his. "True, this guy had the nerve to question me, Carly, after all these years of his." After a little moment of silence, Carly let out a loud and expressive gasp. "Oh my God, Rasheeda, you are not a jerk." Rasheeda mumbled, "I have to check him out. He should respect your name because you are his wife." As she paced the living room, "I agreed to the checkup. But it's not even about that anymore, Carly. He doesn't trust me, and I'm not sure if I can accept that it's about the notion." Meanwhile, Kirk was chatting to Scrappy on his own. "Dude." Scrappy groaned. Kirk sighed and touched the bridge of his nose. "Are you sure?" "I want to believe her, Scrap, but something isn't sitting right." Scrappy crossed his arms and leaned. "I'm not about to be out here parenting another man's child like a damn idiot." "Oh, buddy, I hear you, but you have to ask yourself whether you're incorrect and ready to deal with the fallout." Kirk didn't answer. He feared in his heart that he may lose Rasheeda forever if he was incorrect and had questioned her for no reason. Both of them were so preoccupied with their own ideas that they expected how soon the test day came. Kirk tapped his foot uncomfortably on the floor while Rasheeda sat with her arms, hardly speaking on the way to the clinic. Rasheeda stated as they got at the parking lot, crossing and looking out the window, "Last chance to back out," remarked quietly, with an answer challenge flashing in her eyes. Kirk offered a headshake, but the silence between them was overwhelming. As they entered "We are doing this," they had no clue what the conclusion would be, and they were both knew that their relationship will never be the same again. The uneasy mixture of antiseptic and chilly air that filled the institution further increased their agony in the waiting area. Rasheeda. She sat stiff, her nails digging into her skin and her arms wrapped tightly over her chest with a set face. Kirk sat next to her, his leg bouncing uncomfortably. The stillness yelled louder than any dispute they had ever had. Though none of them said anything, Rasheeda stood up first, her moves precise and purposeful. When the nurse finally, Kirk trailed after, keeping a tight distance as if he was concerned about the air between them. Could blow up. A doctor was waiting in a private room, which the nurse took them into. He was an older guy with professional but compassionate expression. His eyes flickered between them as if he could sense the struggle seething underneath. "Their skin," the doctor continued, "so we're here for a paternity test," in a neutral tone. Kirk responded in a gruff voice. Rasheeda rapidly exhaled through her nose, but she remained mute. "We need answers." The doctor slipped on a pair of gloves and nodded. "All right, it's straightforward. We'll get a sample from the infant and a cheek swab from each of you." Rashid's jaw constricted a few days ago, requiring him to stay in for a few more nights. This anguish sleeping next to a guy who felt she was lying and behaving as if everything was ok, while the marriage was genuinely in shambles. The actual test just took a few minutes. The physician gathered the swabs labeled. They promised to speed the findings. Then it was over in a moment. But what about the harm? Considerably more durable. The drive home was as peaceful as the one there. Rasheeda peered out the window, and her reflection emerged. As tired out as she was, Kirk's knuckles were white as he hung onto the steering wheel. Rasheeda lost control when she eventually pulled into the driveway. She remarked, "You better hope you're right." Her voice was colored with genuine wrath. Kirk massaged his,